In the book Unrestricted Warfare, two senior colonels proposed a multi-step assault that could take down a superpower. It's a Chinese book. I want to quote from it. It says, if the attacking side, 1, musters large amounts of capital, 2, launches a sneak attack against financial markets, then after causing a financial crisis, buries a computer virus and hacker detachment, while carrying out a network attack against the enemy so that the civilian electricity network, the traffic dispatching network, the financial transaction network are all paralyzed, this will cause the enemy nation to fall into social panic, street riots, and a political crisis. This is the book. This is the means by which China had planned in 1999 to take down a superpower. Here we are, not quite 30 years later, and we're seeing China full-blown carrying out everything that they mentioned in this book. Notice the emphasis on network communication. Notice how two big recent stories seem rather ominous. I don't know if you saw this, but the next front in U.S.-China tech battle, underwater cables that power the global internet. Wow! If China could take that out, they could take out the internet. Here, China's underwater power play, the PRC's new subsea cable cutting ship spooks international security experts. That's one story. The second story, Fox News, massive telecom bust in major city is a wake-up call as foreign adversaries threaten U.S. security, according to experts. Says networks had potential to jam 911 calls and collapse cellular service throughout New York City. Wait, that's exactly what they talked about here in Unrestricted Warfare. And here it is in VOZ, an act of war. China's communist regime set up and managed SIM server farms discovered in New York City, and how SIM farms like one near the UN could collapse telecom networks. These are headlines, but what's the story behind them? To find out, I called in my friend Sam Faddis. Sam is former U.S. Army officer, trial attorney, and career undercover CIA operations officer, senior editor for And magazine at Substack, national security commentator, a must-read, and a fellow member of the Committee on the Present Danger, China. Welcome back to the Economic War Room, Sam.
It is great to be here, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. I see these ominous headlines, and I wonder, are they real? Is there really a threat here? What's the problem? Let's start with the undersea cables. What's that all about?
Right. Well, unfortunately, the short answer to your question is yes, the threats are real, and it really is as bad as it sounds. Look, everybody, I think, everybody who's not focused on this thinks of communications moving by satellite. Okay, 99% of the data, if you will, on the planet moves by cable, and it moves obviously by undersea cables between continents. So that means basically your entire modern existence, everything, is dependent upon data that's moving on those cables. Literally 99% of it. And those things are incredibly vulnerable. They are broken by accident all the time, and they are broken intentionally all the time, even in peacetime. So whatever it is in your modern life that you think you have, accessing your bank, being able to communicate, all of that is dependent upon those cables. And we know that the Chinese, the Russians, a host of other actors, practice for and are prepared to destroy those cables.
And they built special ships that are designed to cut them. I mean, we lay them by submarine. Is that how they go down? And then how do they get cut?
Well, they're typically laid by commercial vessels. And one of the things to understand here, obviously, is this is largely a commercial enterprise. This isn't like some top secret U.S. government agency does this. So that means there are lots and lots of people out there in commercial enterprises who understand how this is done and have the technology. They can put them down, they can repair them, therefore they can destroy them. So it's not like 5 guys on the planet know how to do this. How are they cut? They're cut all the time by ships dragging anchors. And that happens by accident, but it's also happened Lord knows how many times when it's pretty clear that the Russian ship or the Chinese ship involved did it deliberately. But yes, now the Chinese have developed a vessel that can go down thousands and thousands and thousands of feet, send ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, down, and cut these things even when they're like, more than a mile deep on the ocean floor.
Well, if we look at this and they could go and do that, and they've built the capability to do that, would we consider that an act of war if they purposely took out not one, but multiple cables? Would that be something we would say that's an act of war? What is the U.S. response in that case?
Yeah, well, I think the answer is we would have to interpret it, take it as an act of war, right? Because just the fact that they haven't declared war formally doesn't change the reality. What is our policy and what is our posture right now? Unclear to me. In other words, the Chinese, just to use them as an example, are already way down the road, not just at developing the capability, but they have on many, many occasions actually broken these things. And we don't seem to have a coherent response at all. We're essentially letting them get away with it.
Wow. The impact, I'm not, if I understood you correctly, our bank balance and all this, anything that we do internationally, all tied to these cables. What if they, as a true act of war, decided they were going to cut all the cables and everyone that they could? What would that do to our economy?
Your economy doesn't exist anymore. Keep in mind that, by the way, just to make it worse, we also know they are poised to knock out our electrical grid and so forth. So make a list, guys, of everything you do using the internet or using electricity and erase it from your life, and imagine that you wake up tomorrow morning. You'll be in 1600, except you won't have a well in your backyard and you won't be growing your own food, so you'll be worse off.
Yeah, this sounds like 1 second after, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the end of modern civilization, right? You can walk to the grocery store. By the way, everything will be spoiled there by the time you get there, and you can't call the police or do anything else.
So this is unfortunately part of China's plans if they go to war with us. We know, in a sense, they have already declared a people's war with us. It's a part of unrestricted warfare, and it's an immediate threat to not just our livelihood, but our life itself. This is frightening, Sam. Is our government aware of it?
Our government is aware of it. They've talked about it. Are we reacting to it sufficiently? No.
So that's the big question. All right, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, that's just one of 2 or 3 different threats to our communications infrastructure. We're with the great Sam Faddis. We'll be right back after the break. In uncertain times, finding stability in the economy can feel challenging. But what if you could navigate economic volatility while honoring your biblical values? At Timothy Plan, they believe this balance is possible. Timothy Plan filters its volatility-weighted ETFs and family of mutual funds through a biblical pro-life and pro-family lens, so you can see competitive returns and moral responsibility, helping you to weather the economic storms. With Timothy Plan, align your investments with your values while adapting to our ever-changing culture. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has been recognized leader in biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, your bridge between faith, finances, and the future. Visit timothyplan.com or call 1-800-TIM-PLAN or 1-800-846-7526. Investing includes risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com.
Gold holds its value far better than the US dollar. Let's see what happens when I go in the sweet shop and pay with gold. Can I pay with gold?
I mean, I'll take a wait, find out how much it costs.
Do you know what? Basically, do you know why I'm even using gold?
I do not.
It holds its value over time, but it's a bit difficult to spend, isn't it? Do you take this?
Yes.
That's MasterCard. Yeah, but this is I'm actually going to pay with gold, believe it or not. Using this. That's my MasterCard, and it's linked to my gold wallet. So let's just watch that. Authorizing. Yeah, add a tip.
Thank you.
So this is your store?
Yes, sir.
And how much gold did I pay?
0.2243 grams.
Yeah, success. Bought with gold, paid with glint.
Imagine you had the opportunity, you could talk to an expert, somebody that understands from inside the agency, understands what our government is doing. We've got him, Sam Faddis. And we just covered this notion that China has planned and built ships to cut all our undersea cables. What if they did that? It'd be an act of war. It could be the end of life as we know it here on planet Earth. But there's another threat to telecommunications that emerged recently, which is something called a SIM farm. I know what a SIM is. It goes in my cell phone. But what's a SIM farm, Sam?
Right. So what you're talking about, and this is consistent with what was recently discovered, is a whole bunch of servers set up with hundreds or maybe potentially even thousands of SIM cards, the things that inside your cell phone, sort of the guts of it, in these servers. So in effect, what this thing does is it spoofs or pretends to be hundreds, thousands of different numbers, and it can be used. And then typically you find these things in unoccupied spaces. Somebody rents an apartment, they set the thing up, and they just literally sit there on the floor and they dial numbers. And this can be, this can be for fraud, this can be for scamming people, it can be stealing things. It could also be denial of service attacks for offensive intelligence type operations, has a whole variety of purposes. And one of these was recently discovered, as you're well aware.
Yeah, no, it was discovered in the United Nations. And Blaze published a story, and I'm going to read a quote here. Sources from both the U.S. intelligence community and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, highlighted that such SIM card networks have been operating in the country since 2004, so 21 years, and detailed that their proliferation has been accelerating at a faster rate since President Donald Trump won the election over Kamala Harris in November 2024. The Blaze added that such SIM farms were installed and are specifically managed by China's Ministry of State Security, MSS, which is one of the Asian giant's most important spy agencies. What does that mean?
So MSS is basically Chinese CIA, right? It's their foreign intelligence organization, meaning the one that operates outside of China and the rest of the world. They operate on U.S. soil. So what we know is that MSS has set up these SIM farms, and they can be literally to crash servers, to you can put out a zillion 911 calls and paralyze a city. One of the things that I think has gone a little unreported, unrecognized in regard to the farm that was just found in the New York metro area. It was found by Secret Service. And the reason Secret Service found it is because Donald Trump was going to the UN to speak. And because of that, and because of the enhanced security, technical guys and gals from Secret Service showed up with certain capabilities and began to really look intensively at what's going on in the area. They detected this farm that led to it being uncovered and all the gear being seized. So why am I going into that detail? Because the only reason we know about that one is because Secret Service happened to show up and did this deep dive to protect Trump. Meaning we have no idea how many more of those things there are in every major metro area in the United States, because we've just never looked that intensively in those areas.
Wow, that's frightening, because you think, I read at the opening of the show from Unrestricted Warfare, to paralyze the traffic dispatching network or 911 or the financial network, that is an act of unrestricted warfare, and that's how you paralyze a nation and end in street riots and a political crisis. That's really how you would destabilize a nation, and you wouldn't even know it. You just pull up the SIM cards and shut them down and go. The damage is already done.
Yeah, and look, everything that you just talked about is done with completely known commercially available gear. It's not like a Chinese Q had to make this in a laboratory somewhere. You can buy these servers and buy the SIM cards they're buying are, they pay cash and they're buying them from some cheap cell phone company. That's what's stuck into these servers. There is nothing cutting edge about this technology. It's all known, and yet in fact we're not really uncovering them. We don't know how many there are.
Yeah, and if they all make calls at the same time in the same direction, it does one thing. They could steal with it. They can capture passwords. What other things ought we be concerned about? You mentioned satellite. Most of our communications goes by undersea cables and so forth, but satellites do carry some communication, and China, haven't they built a satellite killing capability as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I think you're putting your finger on the real thing, the real takeaway here is that none of these things should be viewed by Americans in isolation, right? They shouldn't just say, well, the Chinese can cut a cable or the Chinese can set up a SIM farm. What they should step back and say is the Chinese have developed, not are developing, have developed all of these capabilities. They can employ them all simultaneously. And also, let's give them some credit. They're not doing this because they're bored and they don't have a hobby, like they don't have anything else to do with their time. If you're spending all this time and money and all these resources on developing these capabilities, you're doing it because you have the intention to do something. And somewhere out there, there's a clock ticking, right? This is not abstract. This is not theoretical. What precisely is it that they are getting ready to do that employs all these capabilities? That ought to be our, in Intel work, we always say the single most important question is why? There's a SIM farm there outside of New York with all these capabilities. Why? Why was it there?
That's a great question. Here we've got space news. I've got a headline, September 1st, 2020, 5 years ago. Pentagon report, China amassing arsenal of anti-satellite weapons. And then you go 5 years later, September 4th, 2025, this year, HQ-29, China's new satellite killer missiles threaten to end U.S. space dominance, cripple American military. And that's in Eurasian Times. The point being, this isn't something they've just come to. This is something they've been planning on, and we've known about it for quite some time. But for some reason, it feels like maybe prior to Trump, maybe during the Trump administration, we're not taking this stuff seriously enough. Are we taking it seriously enough, Sam?
No, we're not taking it seriously enough. You just talked about satellites. Okay, what's one piece of that? Everything we do militarily is based on precision and GPS guidance. That's why we're better than everybody else. We can put the Hellfire missile through the window. What happens when your GPS system doesn't work anymore because the satellites just went down? And now you're back. Now you're back to fighting 1944 rules.
Yeah, no, this is a very serious threat to our national security, to our livelihood, to our life itself. And yet, I agree with you. I don't think the U.S. government's taking it seriously enough. We'll need to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk with Sam about things we can and should be doing. We'll be right back.
Somewhere a perversion has taken place. Our natural unalienable rights are now considered to be a dispensation of government. And freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It has to be fought for and defended by each generation.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
In this most critical time in our nation's history, now more than ever, Americans need to align with companies that support our constitutional rights and God-given freedoms. Patriot Mobile supports your values and provides exceptional 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join the movement today. Go to patriotmobile.com or call 972-PATRIOT.
I'm outside Babe's, which I'm told is the quintessential chicken restaurant here in Roanoke, Texas. Let's go and see if we can buy the food in here, chicken with gold.
This is gonna be the fried chicken.
This is unbelievable. How am I going to fill this in? I seriously actually don't know how to begin with this. This is so overwhelming. Do you think I can pay with gold?
I don't know. You may have to ask the cashier. I don't handle it.
Can I pay with gold? But actually, you said I could pay with this? Okay, I'm gonna pay with this, but I'm gonna pay with gold. So look at the price of gold going up. That's pretty cool, yeah? Right, this is Babes, yeah? How much gold did I pay? Gold, how many grams?
0.26.
0.26, quarter of a gram of gold. How about that?
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah. Success! Bought with gold, paid with glint.
All right, we're talking with Sam Faddis. We're talking about the threat to our telecommunications from China specifically, but other adversaries or enemies of the United States could be doing the very same things. But I don't want to limit you, Sam. What are some other threats we may not be thinking of that are on your radar that we ought to be acting on?
Well, look, we touched on this briefly earlier, but the Chinese also, as part and parcel of all of this, have developed the capacity to take down our entire electrical grid, right? We've known for years that they're essentially putting in, to use a loose expression, kill switches into all the giant transformers in our grid and into lots of other electrical gear. So being able to switch off the lights prevent you from pumping gas, effectively wink all of your money that exists electronically at a bank out of existence. All of that kind of stuff is a pretty big deal. We're not doing nearly enough about it. And it's not just the Chinese, right? And it's not just the Russians. I mean, the Iranians are no slouches themselves, although not on the same scale. So it's a whole world of threats out there.
All right, so what do we do? You've got a free pass. We're taking it straight into President Trump, and he's told, pay attention to nothing else but what I've put on this document. What would you put on there that we should be doing?
Well, I think we need to, when it comes to anything that is made in China, we need to get much, much, much more aggressive. So to use transformers as an example, right? There shouldn't be any transformers manufactured in China at any level in our grid, but certainly not the large scale, the really heavy duty ones. So across the board, we just need to steer completely away from that. I think we need to fully re-examine the fact that we are economically in bed with China at all, to the extent we are, because we are paying for this entire effort to kill us, right? We are giving them the money they are using to try to destroy us. On an individual level, I think, you have to do a thought experiment in the interim. You have to say, okay, I just woke up this morning and the lights are off and they're not coming back on. And I can't and I can't use anything concerning the internet. And what am I doing? How am I safeguarding my family? How am I feeding my family? How am I surviving this catastrophe until such time as the government can recover?
Those are good practical things. We've covered a little bit in the economic war room. But we have these big threats. We don't know what we should be doing about it. Actually, what you said is decouple from China, which is powerful. We have that in our pharmaceutical industry. We've talked to Rosemary Gibson, and President Trump's gotten it. We're going to a certain degree, start making medicines here at home again. This whole notion of globalization, where China has taken advantage of it through the Belt and Road, they've manipulated foreign states and so forth, we got to realize we've got to count on America again. This is like going back to pre-World War II, where we make the things that we use and export them to the rest of the world. I think Trump's right on this as president, but we're not accelerating rapidly enough because we've got this whole notion politically, oh no, we've got to be a globalized society and so forth. How do we wake people up? Where can people follow? Because you're writing on this stuff all the time. Where can people best follow you?
Best place to find me is at And Magazine on Substacks. That's andmagazine.substack.com. Obviously, Committee President Danger China is all over this all the time. I mean, look, to me, it's a matter of common sense. If it's 1980 and we're face to face with the Soviet Union and worried about them rolling their tanks into Paris in 72 hours, if we're not careful, would anybody have been talking about building factories in Moscow, shipping money there, helping finance the Soviet war machine? They would have looked at you like you had three heads and say, you need some serious psychiatric help. And yet we're doing that. We are paying for the war machine that is preparing to kill us.
Oh, that's wise words, great advice that we need to get on that war footing. You use the example 1980. I'll use another one. It's 1937, and we're outsourcing everything to Germany. That would be foolish, or Japan. So I appreciate what you're doing. I will tell to our viewers, talk with your investment advisor. If you've got money that's being invested in China, pull it out. Don't do that. And you can learn more at the NSIC.org to find a good financial advisor. And maybe you should be investing in companies that lay those undersea cables or defend or protect us, maybe American defense industry or so forth. I'm not going to give you specifics, but we'll put in our economic battle plan some ideas that you can take in front of your investment advisor to see if it's right for your situation. I obviously can't tell what your personal financial situation is. I can't give advice on this show, but you should have a financial advisor that is actually using your money to defend the interests of your family and our nation. And Sam, we'd love to have you come as a guest to the NSIC Institute on one of our threat assessment calls. Would you be willing to do that and come share what you've shared here, but in greater depth?
Yes, sir. You tell me when and where. You tell me when and I'm there.
I appreciate it. All right. If you don't have a financial advisor that is guiding you according to these terms, I mean, most people, I'll just buy the index. Just give me the index. Well, that'll work until it stops working. If we get into a war, it will stop working. And so NSIC, National Security Investment Consultant Institute, you can learn more at nsic.org. And you'll learn about it. Here's some players in Europe. Freeman, here's another one, Nexans, here's another one, NKT, out of Copenhagen, based in Denmark. These are the companies that are submarine companies that lay these cables. I didn't see an American company on the list. That's a problem. We've got to fix that. We need to have American capabilities across the board. Here's Alcatel Submarine Networks from France. I mentioned them. Subcom in the U.S. We should look at these and see if they make good investments. Sam, do you have any last comments you'd like to make to our viewers?
Really important that we move as quickly as possible, because these guys, again, have not developed this capability just because it amuses them. They intend to use it, and we're not the ones that are going to tell them when to push the button and use it. They will do this on their timetable, whether we're ready or not.
And if we're not ready, it's catastrophic. Even if we are ready, it will be difficult. We are at war. There's a people's war declared against us by the Communist Chinese Party. Now, doesn't mean China is in great shape. They're not, but they're preparing for war and we're not. That puts us at a severe disadvantage. All right, we're going to summarize all of this and put it in our free economic battle plan. If you're not getting our weekly update emails, you need to subscribe at economicwarroom.com. It's free, and we'll send you one email a week that will explain to you what we're covering on the show, just like this with the great Sam Faddis, talking about the risks but also the opportunities. We live in a very dangerous world. Our enemies understand this, but for us, what we see as a marketplace, our enemies, they view it as a battle space. Thank you to the great Sam Faddis. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.